In Parshas Tetzaveh, the Medrash Rabbah starts off with a fascinating medrash about how Klal Yisrael is compared to an olive. The pasuk starts off in the beginning of the parsha. Tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael command the Jewish people should take pure olive oil, crushed olive oil, to light up alos ner tamid, to be illuminating the ner tamid on the menorah. And the Medrash picks up on the language of a lecha, to take to you. It could have just said take it. What is it, the to you? See, there's a comparison being made. It's a taking of the olive oil is somewhat, there's a comparison here. So the Medrash explains, Zeisran, it says in the Pasuk in Yirmiyahu, Zayisranon Yafet Pri Torah Krashem Shemecha. A beautiful leafy olive tree with shapely fruit has Hashem called your name. That Hashem has called Klal Yisrael, that they're a Zeisranon, that they're like the olive tree. So the Medrash wonders, why is Klal Yisrael compared to an olive tree? There are many beautiful trees which have many beautiful qualities, and any beautiful quality you could find in any tree, you could say applies to the Jewish people. See, Klal Yisrael is compared to a grapevine in the Psukim, is compared to the fig tree, to the erez, the cedar tree, and it's because of all the different milas that we find in Klal Yisrael that you find in these trees. So what's special here that it's saying the main one is the olive tree in Yirmiyahu? So the Medrash explains, because the olive, you don't just get oil out of an olive just by squeezing it. It's not like an orange. How do you get oil out of an olive? You first select the ones that are extra ripe and harvest them, and then after it's brought down, it has to be squeezed. After it's squeezed, it has to first be brought to a press and pressed. Then it first is placed in a mill and ground up. Then afterwards they wrap it in ropes. Then afterwards they press down with heavy stones upon it. And they need to go through all that crushing and processing in order to give forth their oil. So too with Klal Yisrael. The nations come and they beat it and they drag them from place to place and imprison them, bind them with neck chains, surround them with soldiers. And after they do that, what's Klal Yisrael's reaction? Klal Yisrael calls out in Shuvah before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As it says in Mitzrayim, Bnei Yisrael cried out, groaned because of the work. And Hashem heard their cry, and Hashem remembered the breasts. And it says also, when distress befalls you, then you're going to return to Hashem in Shuvah. And this is what it means, that just like the olive needs to go through all this process in order to bring out the best olive oil, so too the Jewish people. When they go through this process, this is what it brings out of them. It brings out this beautiful, beautiful tshuva. It brings out the beautiful oil within the Jewish person. Another shot given in the Medrash says, just like Klal Yisrael, just like olive oil, it never mixes with other liquids. You could put it in a cup with 5 other liquids, it doesn't mix with them. So to Klal Yisrael, they're among the nations. They never become a part of the nations. They never mix with the nations. Somebody pointed out to me, they try sometimes, but it never works. They never end up, I said, go ask the kids on the college campuses if they feel like they're mixed in successfully with the nations. There's this idea that Klal Yisrael never mixes with the nations. The Medrash gives a third shot, that olive oil, you could put olive oil and then you pour water on top of it and the oil rises to the top. So to Klal Yisrael, that's who we are. We always will rise to the top. So this is a bit of a difficult medrash to understand, because at the end of the day, this is a medrash praising Klal Yisrael being like the olive, and in a way, is this a praise that we need to go through the ringer in order to bring us to tshuva? Is that what it means, that when Klal Yisrael gets the stuffing beating out of them, then they come in tshuva? A much bigger praise would be if we come to tshuva without that. So there's a Kasav Sofer at the beginning of Parshas Tetzaveh, who really spends a bunch of pages going through this medrash and explaining it. And in a nutshell, what he says is that that's not what the medrash means. The medrash does, of course, we could do tshuva. We do tshuva at times without it. The medrash is pointing out something unique about the Jewish person. That the Jewish person, he quotes the famous Rambam. The Rambam says that a person is not allowed to give a get that's forced. The husband has to want to give the get, but there are times that Bezdin will force him to give the get, and they'll beat him until he says, Rotzani, I want to do it. So is it forced or not forced? So the Rambam explains that it's not considered forced because deep down the Jewish person wants to do the right thing. Deep down we have a beautiful, pure Jewish neshama, and a person always wants to do what's right. So all that the beating is doing, the protector from being an iguna, what the Bezdin is doing is they're bringing out the good within him. They're bringing him back to his real roots. Bit of a challenging Ksav Sofer. He compares it, he contrasts it with a Chovas HaLevavos in Shar Tshuva, where he makes it sound like maybe a forced tshuva is not the same level of purity as a tshuva that comes from the heart. And he explains that's talking about somebody, Ksav Sofer suggests that's talking about somebody who's reached the levels where he's not fully with emunah, where he's believing in avodah zarah, he's attaching power to other things. When a person's given up his emunah, then when Hashem has to bring him back with suffering, then it's not as pure. It's a tshuva and it's accepted, but it's not the same level of purity because there's stuff that was, because he had destroyed his emunah, so I guess the coming back in a certain sense is not from that same core. He says it changes hashkafas. But a regular person, he says, most of the time, people do averos, they have strong emunah, but they have taiva, they have yetzaharas, they have things that cover up the beauty. And then the tshuva, the yisurin do is they remove all the external. Suddenly the person is not blocked by that taiva, is not blocked by that yetzahara, and the real goodness within the person comes out. And that's really the Medrash's point. The Medrash's point is the fact that when you beat it, the oil is within the olive. The olive, you remove all the external in the way, and there's olive oil sitting in there. It's not a part of the olive. It's a separate thing within the olive in a certain halachic sense. That there's oil, beautiful oil, which creates beautiful, beautiful fire. And so too the Jewish person and the Jewish people. That with all the beating, with all the suffering at the end of the day, and it removes all the external shells that we have that block us, that make us look like we're one of the nations, and whatever exteriors we put on, whatever facades we put on, and that's the goodness within the Yid, is that beautiful oil, is that beautiful emunah, that desire to do tshuva and have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even if we're not in touch with it, that's what's within the person. And that's the meaning of this medrash, that the same way the olive oil, when you beat it, you realize that there's really amazing things in there. So the Klal Yisrael, when Hashem puts us through challenges, it shows that there's amazing things within us. And this, we have to take chizuk from it when we go through challenges, that there is this goodness within us. And we have to look when we see people with exteriors. I believe Rav Shaya Cohen Shlita is a big fan of this medrash. I think there's even a painting that one of his Talmidim made of him squeezing an olive with a talus over his head to symbolize this idea that when you deal with a precious Jew and you're realizing that he's like that olive, that there's all these exteriors and blocks and yetzaharas and facades that we put up. At the end of the day, there's that pure Jewish soul in there. There's that pure, beautiful olive oil. He just needs the right things from the outside to remove all the exteriors and let that beautiful light shine forth. And the Ksav Sofer says that's the connection with the second part of the Medrash. That because this is who we are, this is the real us, so when a person, and when our people, we mix in with the nations, but we never lose that internal core of emunah and goodness and desire to turn back to our Father in heaven. And that's why that's what it means, we never mix with the nations. Even externally, it looks like we've joined them and become a part of them. We never really have deep down. We've never really changed into one of them. And we always have this ability to rise up above them and be separate from them and show our true greatness. I heard somebody make this point after October 7th, and there was so much achdus and so much love and so many people turning back to mitzvahs. And I think it was Daniel Kalish said, don't make the mistake of thinking like, oh, this is not the real us, this brings out something. This is the real us. It takes things like this to bring it out. But you see, when we go through tragedy as a people, this is what comes out. This is who we really are. And maybe be zocheh that we should continue to just see the transformation, appreciate when we go through things that's part of Hashem's master plan to bring out the light within us. May we be zocheh to bring out the light in others, see the light come out through the Jewish people, especially in this time of Adar, this time of Simcha and good Besuros, and hoping for Geula and good things. May be zocheh to bring out the beautiful light within us. Wishing you a wonderful Shabbos and a Freilichen Purim.